Welcome to the DfE Test 2. So I'm going to do a live kind of run through, all under time conditions, exactly as you would do it in the test, exactly as you would do it on the DfE site, so it recreates the real test. We're going to use the on-screen calculator in the second section. So what I've done is I've done a split screen. I've got the DfE website on the left, I've just got an on-screen whiteboard on the right, partly for me to do my workings out, but mainly so that you can see what workings out that I do. Now, because I'm doing it under time conditions, in the mental arithmetic, I will get a few seconds to describe what I've done, but hopefully the working out and the writing down that I do as I'm going along will probably be more important to you. Okay, so the most important points of the question I will clarify what I'm doing, but I'm keen to do this under time conditions. When we get to the second section, I'll have a little bit more time to maybe dwell on the slightly trickier questions, but the aim is still to do it within the 48 minutes. Okay, so let's make a start. Let's get cracking.
Practice question. A parents' evening was planned to start at 16:30. There were 20 consecutive appointments of 10 minutes each, and a break of 15 minutes during the evening. At what time was the parents' evening due to finish? Give your answer using the 24-hour clock. A parents' evening was planned to start at 16:30. There were 20 consecutive appointments of 10 minutes each, and a break of 15 minutes during the evening. At what time was the parents' evening due to finish? Give your answer using the 24-hour clock.
Okay, so what I try to do is I try and do the question as much as possible while they're still reading it out. I know that might be difficult for some of you, but really this one, add up the total number of minutes, convert it into hours and minutes. So 3 hours is 180, 215 take away 180 is 35. Add all the time on.
Teachers organised activities for 3 classes of 24 pupils and 4 classes of 28 pupils. What was the total number of pupils involved? Teachers organised activities for 3 classes of 24 pupils and 4 classes of 28 pupils. What was the total number of pupils involved?
Okay, now obviously you guys might need to write out a multiplication method for things like 28 times 4. You just got to do that in your own way. Okay, but fairly simple question. It's just doing it in the time that might be a little bit tricky.
Question 2. All 30 pupils in a class took part in a sponsored spell to raise money for charity. The pupils were expected to get an average of 18 spellings correct each. The average amount of sponsorship was 20 pence for each correct spelling. How many pounds would the class expect to raise for charity? All 30 pupils in a class took part in a sponsored spell to raise money for charity. The pupils were expected to get an average of 18 spellings correct each. The average amount of sponsorship was 20 pence for each correct spelling. How many pounds would the class expect to raise for charity?
Okay, it's quite a wordy, lengthy question, but once you get used to them, it should be easy. Notice I've done a multiplication, but I did the 30 times 20 first because it's easy, because there's lots of zeros in there. Once you get to 600 pence, quickly turn that into 6 quid. It will make this question much quicker.
Question 3. As part of the numeracy work in a lesson, pupils were asked to stretch a spring to extend its length by 40%. The original length of the spring was 45 centimetres. What should be the length of the extended spring? Give your answer in centimetres. As part of the numeracy work in a lesson, pupils were asked to stretch a spring to extend its length by 40%. The original length of the spring was 45 centimetres. What should be the length of the extended spring? Give your answer in centimetres.
Okay, two main things. Do the 10% is 4.5. To quickly turn that into 40%, I'm timesing by 4. A good way of timesing by 4, double it and then double it again. So 4.5 doubled is 9, double it again is 18. And then you've got to add that on because we want the extended length of the spring.
Question 4. For a science experiment, a teacher needed 95 cubic centimetres of vinegar for each pupil. There were 20 pupils in the class. Vinegar comes in 1,000 cubic centimetre bottles. How many bottles of vinegar were needed? For a science experiment, a teacher needed 95 cubic centimetres of vinegar for each pupil. There were 20 pupils in the class. Vinegar comes in 1,000 cubic centimetre bottles. How many bottles of vinegar were needed?
Very easy question, but I just want to talk about this multiplication at the beginning. The best thing to do when you're timesing something by 20 is times it by 10 and then double it, or double it and then times by 10, whichever way you want to do it. So 2 lots of 95 is 190. Stick an extra 0 on the end. Rest is pretty simple.
Question 5. The morning session in a school began at 09:25. There were 3 lessons of 50 minutes each and 1 break of 20 minutes. At what time did the morning session end? Give your answer using the 24-hour clock. The morning session in a school began at 09:25. There were 3 lessons of 50 minutes each and 1 break of 20 minutes. At what time did the morning session end? Give your answer using the 24-hour clock.
Okay, couple of different ways of doing this, but really, when you've got to 170 minutes in total, that's nearly 3 hours. So that'll take you to 12:25, but it's nearly 3 hours. It's 10 minutes short. So let me get the answer typed in. It's 12:15.
Question 6. 6 out of 25 pupils scored full marks in a test. What percentage of pupils scored full marks? 6 out of 25 pupils scored full marks in a test. What percentage of pupils scored full marks?
Okay, the answer is 24%. There was a question in DfE 1, almost exactly the same. It's a very important number, 25. It's a quarter, so you times it by 4. That gives us a 100 on the bottom. That allows us to get the percentage nice and quickly. This is a super easy question. These should be second nature to you.
Question 7. What is 643 divided by 0.1? What is 643 divided by 0.1?
Okay, lots of you guys memorize this and then you get a little bit stuck if it's a different decimal. But if you write it as a fraction, okay, you should then be able to see that times in top and bottom by 10, it gets rid of the decimal. It's the same as 6,430 divided by 1.
Question 8. In a class of 24 pupils, 3 need additional support. What fraction of the class do not need additional support? Give your answer in its lowest terms. In a class of 24 pupils, 3 need additional support. What fraction of the class do not need additional support? Give your answer in its lowest terms.
Okay, I've done that question quickly so that I can focus on the notation. This notation is important. It's a not question, so I need to change that to a 7. Sorry, 3 out of 24 do, but it's a not question. So once I've got to 1/8, I then need to change my answer to 7/8. I nearly messed that up. Sorry about that.
Question 9. A teacher took a group of pupils to an aquarium whilst visiting France. The total entrance cost for the group was €160. Taking 1.6 euros as equal to £1, what was the total entrance cost in pounds for the group of pupils? A teacher took a group of pupils to an aquarium whilst visiting France. The total entrance cost for the group was €160. Taking 1.6 euros as equal to £1, what was the total entrance cost in pounds for the group of pupils?
Okay, it's a decimal division again really. 160 divided by 1.6. It links into the last question. You can do that by writing it as a fraction and then times in top and bottom by 10. That gets rid of the decimals. 1,600 over 16. You really need to be looking at 16 divided by 16 is 1.
Question 10. A pupil achieved 84 marks out of a possible 120 in a test. What percentage mark did the pupil achieve for the test? A pupil achieved 84 marks out of a possible 120 in a test. What percentage mark did the pupil achieve for the test?
Okay, and it was a percentage, although look, there's a percentage symbol in the answer box, so we can't really forget that, 70%. It's all about simplifying the fraction. I've halved it, I halved it again, and then threes. That's what I always teach, is that they're the most common numbers that you're going to use in the whole test.
Question 11. A school trip was planned at a total cost of £120 per pupil. The accommodation cost 2/5 of the total. What was the cost of the accommodation per pupil? A school trip was planned at a total cost of £120 per pupil. The accommodation cost 2/5 of the total. What was the cost of the accommodation per pupil?
There's a few different ways of doing this really, but essentially when you're doing 2/5 of 120, the main method for doing any fraction is you divide by the bottom number and then you multiply by the top. Again, I would encourage, I think I did one of these in DfE Test 1, I would encourage you to use the bus stop division method.
Question 12. A school's policy for Key Stage 2 was to set 3.5 hours of homework per week. What was the mean number of minutes to be spent on homework per weekday evening? A school's policy for Key Stage 2 was to set 3.5 hours of homework per week. What was the mean number of minutes to be spent on homework per weekday evening?
Okay, so 3.5 hours, you need to convert 3.5 hours into minutes, and then again, bus stop method. Okay, I'm just going to type the answer in. Okay, but 5's into 21, go 4, carry 1, 42. 42 minutes is your answer. Okay, the reason it's 5 is because it said weekday evening. Okay, so it's all about getting those key numbers written down as we're going along. Okay, right, now then, second section. The time's ticking, I'm going to crack on, but I will be able to probably put a little bit more meat on the bones for these questions. Okay, so this first one, this blue line is the important bit to understand in most of these questions. Okay, and it basically means that if a dot is on the blue line, it means that person had the same actual and reading age. Okay, and what it allows you to then do is to split the class into the good readers. So if you look at, let's have a look at maybe this dot here where my cursor is. This person is under 6, actual age is under 6, but their reading age is over 6. That person's a good reader. All of the people above the blue line are good readers. Okay, now this particular question, it wants those, a proportion. Proportion, whenever you see the word proportion, you just need fraction. Okay, how many pupils in total? It tells you up here. So 21 goes on the bottom, and we simply count the 6 dots that are on the blue line, and we put 6 over 21. Bring the old magic calculator up. 6 divided by 21. That turns any fraction into a decimal. Okay, and that's what they want here. They want it as a decimal, but they want us to round it to one decimal place, so it's 0.3. Okay, let's move on. Same graph, okay? So they're just going to ask us a different question on it. We've got to click on the pupil that has the greatest difference between their reading age and actual age. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to do a quick drawing over here to show you what you do. If you've got a dot, say here, and a dot here, okay, what you're really measuring is the distance, this vertical distance from the line. So you want to visualize the one that's the furthest away. It's this one here. I hope that makes sense, okay? The vertical line is the furthest away. So this person is quite young, they're only just over 6, but their reading age is basically top of the class. Same graph, okay? The range for reading age. Okay, so my scatter diagram video, if you're not very good at scatter diagrams, okay, I've got a scatter diagram video. I would recommend it. Well, I would, wouldn't I? But I do think it's quite a tricky topic, and I do think lots of people need help with it, okay? So range for reading age. Look, with reading age goes from the bottom to the top. I need the lowest one, so that's what this one here. Now this person is 2 lines below 6. 2 lines below 6 in this context is 5 years and 10 months. Okay, and then the top person up here, we're going to count up from 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is 7 years, 7 months. Okay, but really the best way to do it is when you start at the bottom, if we go up 2 squares, that's 6, then we jump 1 year, and then we just went up 7. Now I'm going to do that as a little timeline, okay, but it's effectively written out as a timeline already, so you shouldn't really need to do this. So 2 months gets you to 6, 1 year gets you to 7, okay, and then 7 months. So our total jumps are 1 year and 7 months, okay. Now 1 year is 12. Sorry, I said that wrong. 1 year and 9 months in total. Let me write that down. Okay, now 1 year is 12. 12 plus 9 is 21. Okay, so I'm drawing the timeline just to show you the methods, but really, if you do it on the screen, you could literally count the squares from the bottom to the top and count months. You could literally count 21 squares up. Okay. Okay, these are fairly common questions. These are pretty basic, to be honest. We add up the number of people that are having extra music lessons first. Okay, well, we don't have to do it first. It doesn't matter. We've got to add both columns up. So I'm going to do the number of people having extra music lessons. So 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 7 plus 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 5. Very easy to make a mistake with that. I'm going to jot that number down on my whiteboard before I forget it. Okay, and I do get students on a one-to-one basis that we're doing a question, they work that out, and then they've forgotten it. It's because they haven't written it down. So it's 44 out of total number of pupils. We'll clear the calculator. 25 plus 30 plus 30 plus 28 plus 26 plus 29 plus 18 plus 24. That is a skill in itself to not miss a number or repeat a number, that kind of thing. So be very careful, okay? It's just practice. Okay, so proportion, or sorry, it says percentage. So we always start with a fraction. We do the simple division. That turns it into a decimal, but times by 100 will turn it into a percentage. It's 20.9%. Okay, nearest whole number, 21%. Okay, right, so they give you the formula. The bit that's missing in this question are these 2 blanks in the table here. Okay, and really probably the easiest way to see what's going on with these is if you look at this number here, this 5 pupils here, and they got 21 points per level, so 5 lots of 21 is 105. So you can see there's been a multiplication going on there. Okay, so I'm going to do the same for the blanks. We're going to have 8 times 33. Okay, and again, it's really important that you jot that number down. Okay, clear the calculator. The next one is 6 times 39, 234. Okay, so what I need to do is add those two numbers and the 783 and the 105. So we're going to clear the calculator. We're going to do that. I must admit, I do hate this blooming calculator, as I'm sure you guys do. It's pretty horrible. You just have to practice it. You just have to try and get used to it. Okay, so 1386. So if we look at the formula, okay, so I'm just going to do an M for mean. The formula says total number of pupils in the group is on the bottom, total points for the year group on the top. Well, that's the number that I just got. Okay, so that's the total number of points. Total number of pupils, we can do a separate calculation. No, we don't need to. I've just looked at the table. They've done that bit for us on this occasion. Sometimes they'll do that, sometimes they won't. So, clear the calculator. We've got a nice simple formula, 1386 divided by 48. If you consistently get the numbers around the wrong way when you're doing this, you're not reading the formula very well and reading the words. You must read the words carefully and get the numbers around the right way. Okay, now again, if I just move the calculator, it does ask us to round this to the nearest whole number. Hopefully that's obvious that it's 29. Just going to clear my screen and we'll make a start. Okay, right, so a group outing to see a play. Okay, I think what I tend to do with these questions is I go and read the question and think, well, do I need to work out what it is per person or as a total? Okay, so it says how much will each person have to pay for the outing? So it's per person. Okay, so in that case, I don't really care that there's 25 people in the group. Okay, if the return tickets are £5.65, then the return tickets are £5.65. I don't need to change that number. I don't need to times that by 25. So this is for one person. Okay? Now, it then says that the theatre tickets cost £185, but that is for everybody. So that's where we do need to do a calculation. 185 divided by the 25 tickets, it's 7.4 or £7.40 per person. Okay, so one person again. So if they're the only costs, then we add those together. So 7.4, I don't trust these calculators, so I'm going to type it in myself. 7.4, you can put the 0 on the end, it doesn't really matter. You shouldn't really need to. Okay, it's £13.5p. Okay, so bar chart, okay, and 3 statements. So it's almost like, you know, again, it's like 3 separate questions, and treat them separately. Okay, so if we have a look at the first statement, it's talking about the mean percentage of GCSE grades A star to C. Okay, to be honest, when you look at this, the bar chart is pretty much irrelevant because they're basically just giving you the numbers. So in 2009, you don't need to read off the height of the bar. It says 50. Okay, so, and it says for the last 5 years, you need to kind of isolate this and look at the last 5 numbers and add those together. Okay, so I'm going to grab my calculator. I would actually probably go backwards here. I would do the latest number, which is 2011, is 58. Then the next one, 54. Then the next one is 50. The next one is 46. And then one more. Okay, and why is it one more? Because it said the last 5 years, so I need to put 5 numbers in my calculator. Now, if I've added 5 numbers up and I want to find the mean, I divide by 5. 51. Okay, that matches up, it's a true statement. Okay, so on to statement, or the second statement. The percentage of GCSE grades A star to C increased each year from 2004 to 2011. Now 2004 to 2011 is every single bar, so all you're really trying to do is you're trying to find somewhere where it doesn't go up, and in the middle here it dropped from 47 to 46, so this is a false statement. Next statement, the percentage of mathematics GCSE grades A star to C more than doubled from 2004 to 2011. Okay, so this time we don't need to look at each year individually. Okay, in 2004 it was 22 and it went to 58. Well, if we doubled 22 it would be 44. 58 is clearly more than 44, so this is a true statement. It more than doubled. Okay, one of these sort of parents' evening questions. Lots of people don't like this. I've got an awful lot of practice questions, and I've got a good video or webinar on time-related stuff that covers these. Okay, in this particular question, okay, you've got 24 appointments lasting 10 minutes each. So most people go and do 24 times 10 immediately. The reason that you shouldn't do that in this question is because the first sentence says that you're going to split this over 2 evenings. So what you've got to do is you've got to do a timeline, okay, and on the first evening you start at 16:30 and you are going to finish at 7 o'clock, okay, 1900. So what we do is we work out how many people we're going to fit in. Okay, now there's a couple of ways of doing this, but I would probably just go and look at this and say, right, this is 2.5 hours, which is 2 hours 30, and that's, convert that into minutes, it's 150 minutes. Okay, but there's a 20-minute break. So if you take off the 20-minute break, what you've got to be clear on here is that this is the total amount of time available for interviews or appointments or whatever. Now 10 minutes makes it easy, doesn't it? 130 divided by 10, you'd see 13 people on the first evening. Okay, so if you need to see 24 people in total, okay, you do a quick subtraction, you need to see 11 people on the second evening. Okay, now we could work it out again. 11 times 10 is 110, put the 20-minute break on, it's 130, blah blah blah. We could do that, but I would tend to look at this and say, look, you're seeing 11 people on the second evening, that's just 2 people less than the first evening, so you're going to finish 20 minutes earlier. Okay, so 20 minutes earlier, okay, is 1840. That's a quicker way of doing it. Okay. Okay, right. Crikey. Now, normally, as most of you know, most of you probably come to my website and my videos via the Facebook group page, and you know that currently, and we're, well, I was going to say we're August 2017. It's actually the 1st of September today. So as of September 2017, I'm pretty much convinced that these questions are not coming up in the test. I'm going to do this quickly because I'm tempted not to do it, but I am going to do it. Okay, right. I wouldn't worry about these questions much though. Now, if I was teaching this, what I would do is I would say, look, if the median is 50 and the mode is 72, then you presume that somebody got that score. Okay, so and what you can do is if you put them on a number line, currently 72 is our biggest number. Let's presume it is our biggest number. If you then use the range of 60, then it means that the smallest possible number was 12. Okay, and that allows us to answer the first statement. It says some pupils in Class A achieved less than 12%. It is not possible. It is impossible that anybody got less than 12, so that one's false. So I'm not going to tick that one. Okay, so next statement, we're looking at Class C. They quite often do this. You expect them to do Class A, Class B and Class C in order. Unfortunately they don't. Okay, so Class C is a little bit more difficult. Okay, you've got a median of 60, okay, and you've got a mode of 70. The problem now is the range is very big. It's 85. If I subtract 85 off of 70, I'm going to get a negative number. That's no good. Okay, we can't do that. Okay, so what you do is you presume that somebody scored 100 in the test, and then with a range of 85, the smallest score would have been 15. See, these questions are all about finding the minimum and maximum scores. The other possibility is that if somebody got 0 in the test, that would then mean that the biggest score in the test was 85 if the range is 85. Okay, so you sort of learn about minimums and maximums. Okay, now what you do is when you read the statement, it says at least one pupil achieved less than 20%. It doesn't matter whether you look at my blue one or my red one, somebody definitely got less than 20%. Okay, so this one is true. It's a tricky statement. I wouldn't worry about these questions too much if you're struggling with them. If they start reappearing in the real test, then of course I'll do a separate video for them. Okay, last one, Class B. We've got a median of 50. Okay, we've got a mode of 68. So again, if I knock off the range is 28. If I knock off the range, we've got a minimum of 40. Okay, so it says all pupils in Class B achieved at least 40%. It's a true statement. The minimum score was 40. Horrible questions. I forgot about those. When that popped up, then I thought, oh God, here we go. Okay, so next question. This is a very common question. Okay, pupils marks out of 50. The beauty of these questions is that if ever you do a test and you score out of 50, if you want to get what your percentage is, you just double it. So if you scored 40 out of 50, you double 40 and you get 80. So you scored 80%. So what you can do with these questions is, if you look at pupil A, the difference in their mark, this person scored 2 more marks. Okay, so it's kind of like they got 28 in test 1, they got 30 in test 2. The difference is 2 marks, but as a percentage, if you double that, it's a 4% difference. So can you see I'm doubling everything? If you look at pupil B, the difference is 4 marks, I double it and I get 8%. Okay, so we can do that for every pupil fairly quickly. Now, what does the question want? It wants at least 10 percentage points. Well, if you look on the screen, okay, on the right hand side, to get a 10, what number would I need here? Okay, it would need to be 5. So I go through and I look for students that scored 5 more. Okay, well, A didn't, B didn't, C didn't, D did. D got exactly 5 more. E is only 4, so I don't click it. F is a clear winner, 9 marks different, that's 18%. G, no. H is exactly 5. I got the same. J, easy. Okay, 10 marks, 20%. So you're just looking for a difference of 5. Okay, box and whiskers, true and false statements again. Okay, when you're doing range with box and whisker, you can normally just do it visually. You don't need to use numbers. So the range of marks in Class A was greatest. Of course, that's true. The top to the bottom is much longer. Okay, so don't need to do any numbers there. Median, 15 percentage points less. Nope. Look, if you look at the 2 medians, they're 1 line difference. 1 line is only 5 on this scale, so this one's false. Interquartile range, let me just teach you interquartile range very quickly on the whiteboard over here. So for any box plot, the difference between, this is the upper quartile, this is the lower quartile, so it's the length of that box. Okay, so can you see when you look at the length of those boxes in both classes, they were the same, so this is true. Okay, right, these are quite long. I'm going to whip the calculator out here. Notice I didn't use a calculator on quite a few of those questions. Obviously, if you need to, then use it, but not all of them you will need it, but this question we will. Okay, so hopefully you would fairly quickly see that it's a speed, distance, time question. You read it very carefully. They give you the distance is 120 kilometers. Okay, the speed of the coach is 50 miles per hour. So when and again, I've got a separate video for speed, distance, time. If this is a bit of a weakness of yours, rent the video and really learn it. So the way I teach it in there is there's a mismatch here. Miles per hour with kilometers. Okay, so we're going to convert the kilometers. We're going to cross this out and change it. So 120. Just bear with me and I'll explain it. Okay, so we're doing a conversion here, and again, and I'm not trying to use these as a selling kind of mechanism for my videos, but I have a separate conversions video. okay, we write it out like this. 8 kilometers is 5 miles. They've given that to you in the question. We're converting 120 kilometers. Let's use the calculator. If you write it out like this and you practice it, you'll be clear that that's a division first. So you divide by 8 is 15, and then you multiply by 5. Okay, so it's 75 miles. Okay, so there's the miles, there's the 75. So up here we put in 75. So the 120 is gone. It's not in the question anymore. Okay, now formula triangle. I'm not going to write all of this out. Formula triangle, you ought to know that time is distance divided by speed. So I'll grab my calculator. Okay, we do. Distance is 75 and speed is 50. Okay, now 1.5, the units is hours, but you need to sort of interpret that properly. 1.5 is 1.5, so this is 1 hour 30 minutes. Very important not to say 1 hour 50. It's 1 hour 30. Okay, so then timeline. Okay, if you read the question carefully, it says that we need to be in Ostend no later than 1800. So 1800 goes on the end. Okay, it's going to take us 1.5 hours to get there. So if we subtract 1 hour and then subtract 30 minutes, that's 1630. Okay, and then what you do is you read the rest of the question and make sure we haven't missed anything. Okay, so doesn't look like we have on this occasion. They quite often will put a 20-minute break or a 15-minute break in. Okay, to be honest, I hadn't really read it. Okay, so I do the calculations and then I go and read it again to double check. Okay, so our answer is 1630. Obviously, if there was a break, we would maybe need to leave a little bit earlier. Okay, pie charts. Okay, I'm going to teach you an important method here to deal with these statements, and it could be statements to do with pie charts, bar charts, kind of pretty much anything really, and it's all to do with fractions. Okay, so you can see in the 3 statements that they basically come up with 3 fractions. I would ignore those fractions. So when you look at statement 1, we're going to come up with our own fraction that went on to higher education. Well, 82 people out of some question mark. That's the most important number. We need to know how many people it's out of, and the only way we're going to get that from this particular question is to add them all up. So we've got 82 in higher education, plus the 14 that took a gap year, plus 38 went on to further education, and 48 that went into employment. So it's 182. Okay, and then you basically the best way to compare fractions is to use your calculator. Just turn it into a decimal. Okay, so 82 divided by 182 is 0.45 blah blah blah. Okay, I'll write a few decimals down there. Their suggestion was 3/7. So what you do is you just turn that into a decimal. 3 divided by 7. Can you see that they're different? Okay, you don't really need to write that down what it is. They're different, so that's false. Okay, so first one is false. Just going to clear the screen and we'll do the second one. We're going to do the second one in exactly the same way. Now, it should be a bit quicker because we already know the bottom number is 182. Okay, gap year was 14. Okay, again, I'm just going to convert that into a decimal. So 14 divided by 182 equals. Okay, and it is important you write it down, otherwise it's going to be, you're going to clear your calculator and do something different. It won't be obvious whether it's true or false. Okay, so that's our answer. Their answer was 1/13. So I'll do 1 divided by 13. Look at, can you see how it's exactly the same? That means it's a true statement. Okay, so let's move on. Let's do the third statement. So third statement, further education is the orange one. It's 38 over 182. Exactly the same method. It's a bit tedious, I know, but it's kind of like, it's really quite easy. Your calculator is doing all of the work here. Okay, so 0.2087 approximately. Okay, you don't need to round it or anything, it's just about whether it's the same or not. So 2 divided by 7, 2087. This is 2857. It's different, so this is false. Okay, so just the middle one is correct. Okay, bar charts. Okay, now again, bar charts, they're fairly simple bar charts. You know, the blue bars are test 1, the orange bars are test 2, and then we've got a range of marks. Okay, you just have to read the questions and statements fairly carefully. There are a few little tricks that they put in. Okay, so first statement, the number of pupils achieving 81 plus. Okay, so we've got to get some numbers. Okay, so 81 plus in test 1. Okay, so test 1, the blue one, it's 2. Okay, in test 2, okay, it's gone up to 6. Okay, if we increased test 1 by 50%, 50% of 2 is only 1, and you'd add 1 on to 2 and you'd get 3. Okay, it's clearly false. Okay, so this first one, false. Okay, so second statement, more than 80%. Again, I would ignore the more than 80% bit and we'll come up with our own percentage. Okay, so we need the total number of people. It's given in the question at the top. You could add up the bars, but to save a mistake, look, it says a science class of 30 pupils. So we get 30 in at the bottom, and then we count up how many got more than 40 marks in test 2. Okay, so test 2 is orange. This little orange bar here, these people only got 0 to 20 marks. These people here, 21 to 40, so we don't need them. We need this bar here, which is 13. I'm going to jot that down, 13. This bar here is 6, and this bar on the end is 6 also. So we add those up. I'm not going to do that on the calculator. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 13 is 25. Okay, but what I will do on the calculator is I'll work that out as a percentage. 25 divided by 30. Okay, times by 100. So we then just check the statement. The statement is saying more than 80%. I can totally agree with that. I made it 83%, so we check that one. That's true. Okay, same with the next one. Ignore the 1/3 of pupils. Not going to bother with that. I'm going to come up with my own fraction. It's not the only way to do it, okay? But I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to just try and do the same thing. So we know that it's 30 again on the bottom. Fewer than 41 marks in test 1. Test 1 is blue, so we need this bar here. This is 3 people. Okay, and then we need this bar here. This is 7 people. Okay, so we get 10 over 30. You could use your calculator here, but I think that's such an easy fraction to simplify. Just knock the zeros off of each one. It is indeed a third. It's a true statement. There we go. Move on to the next question. Okay, right. These questions here are all about reading very carefully, and it's this word here. Can you see my cursor? It says percentage mark, okay? And then here it says percentage mark. So what we do is we come down to the table and see whether it matches up. Well, it certainly doesn't for coursework. Coursework is out of 60, whereas practice examination is out of 100. So these numbers in the right hand side of the table, they are already percentage because 45 out of 100 is a percentage. So what we're going to do is, for each pupil, we're going to work out their course mark percentage. Okay, and I'll do that on the calculator as I'm going along. So pupil X, they scored 22 out of 60. So that's a division, and we times by 100. Okay, not a very nice number that. That's a bit awkward. 36.666. That 6 goes on forever. Okay, I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a second. Okay, pupil Y, okay, notice how I'm doing this for each pupil first. Pupil Y, 21 out of 60, okay, times by 100, okay, that one's a bit nicer, that's around 35%, Okay, and then the last one, shouldn't need a calculator for the last one, 30 out of 60, that's half marks, that's 50%. Okay, so now we go to our formula. Now, the important thing with the formula is, I'm going to really teach this, that you work the top of the fraction out first and you divide by 4 afterwards. So watch what I do on the calculator. Okay, so for pupil X, 36 point. Now, don't be lazy here. Put as many 6s in as you can reasonably kind of fit in. Okay, put that in, and then you're going to add. No, actually, sorry, I'm going to start that again. I think with this, getting this top of this fraction, I would add that one on last. I'm going to do 3 times the practice examination score, which is 45. So 3 times 45, press equals, it's 135, and then add on the 36 point, and put lots of 6s in just to avoid any mistakes. So again, when I press the equals button, I've worked out the top of the fraction, so my end bit is to divide that by 4. Okay, now they need to get a minimum of 55 for a grade C. This person didn't get anywhere near it. Okay, so we in a way, you don't really even need to use a formula with that one, but I'm just showing you the method. Okay, so pupil Y, we'll do the same thing. We do 3 times. Now this person got 60% in the practice examination, so much more likely that this person has maybe passed. So 3 times 60, and then add on. You mustn't add on 21. We add on the 35 that we've written down. Okay, and then we divide by 4. Okay, not quite. They still didn't quite get to 55. Okay, so last person, 3 times 58, and then add on. Again, don't use the 30. It's 50% they scored. 224. Divide that by 4. They got 56. So it's pupil C. That's the only person that got a final mark of 55 or above. Okay. Now, I think this is the last question. I've got just under 3 minutes. Should be all right. Let's have a look then. 3 statements. Okay. I think if you're running out of time and you've got 3 statements, it's a bit of a nightmare, but we'll be all right. So I'm going to do this fairly quickly. 2009, the teacher assessment result for each subject was above the corresponding test/task result. Okay, so you've really just got to look at each line. In 2009, teacher assessment in the first one, yes, it's above. Second one, yes, it's above. Third one, no, it isn't. So that one's false. Second statement, in 2010, the teacher assessment was closer to the result in English than it was in science. So in English, there was a difference of 2. Okay. In science, there was a difference of 3. Okay, so was that closer in English than science? Yes, it was. So that's a true statement. Okay, last one is looking at improvement. It says, taking into account both teacher assessments and task test assessments, the trend in both English and mathematics indicates improved performance. So we've just got to use that for, well, we need to ignore science because it's English and maths. So we split it. English, teacher assessment, 68, 72, 75, it's going up. 60, 70, 75, it's going up. Mathematics, 66, 72, 76, it's going up. Mathematics, tests/tasks, 56, 66, 74. You just have to isolate the right information so that you can then quickly look at whether it's going up or down. It does take practice to be able to do that quickly. So you can see I had about a minute left when I finished there, which is I'm reasonably pleased with that, because trying to sort of teach it in a video and do it is quite difficult. Okay, so let's hope I got 100%. Moment of truth now. Thank God for that. Okay, I didn't really want to sit and do a 48-minute video or 47-minute video and have got one wrong, but it might happen. We'll see. So far so good. I've managed to do test 1 and test 2 without making a mistake. Phew. Okay, hope that helps. Okay, and I'll be doing test 3 fairly shortly. Thanks a lot.